to the Soul Mirror, where we reflect on the stories that shapes us and the strain that saves us. I'm your host Shreya, and today we are joined by Bonnie D'Arcangelo, a clinical herbalist, aromatherapist, and the founder of Herbal and Bosebia Phytotherapy Center. With deep roots in nature and a mission to protect endangered plants, Bonnie doesn't just walk healing, she embodies it. From personal growth through pain to the magic of the plant medicine, today's journey is both earthy and epic. So, welcome, Bonnie. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Shreya.
So, Bonnie, you helped others heal holistically, but what was your own turning point through that adversity?
That's twofold. I think, part of my journey towards natural medicine started with my own health as a young child when doctors pretty much told my parents that they didn't know what was wrong with me and that was it, and they didn't have any answers. And so it was a shocking experience to have medical professionals basically tell you they don't know what's wrong and why you're sick, and there's nothing they can do for you. And it was many years later until I discovered organic food and herbal medicine. And when I did, it changed the way that I felt. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel so dependent upon pharmaceutical medicine. And the way it made me feel was just drastic. And so that was like the starting point. And then the second big trigger in my life was when my eldest child got sick
Okay.
and she was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And I was told by a doctor that there was nothing that could be done about it. And that was just the way she was going to be for the rest of her life. And I remember thinking in my head, oh no, I'm certain there's something that I can do. And I'm going to find out what it is. And that was the start of a really deep dive into the human body, how it functions, and how we can heal and restore all of our systems.
Yeah. And I think often it's in the mess that we meet the medicine, and your story feels like a true testament to that. And how did that hardship become so fertile ground for your life's mission?
Well, it wasn't an easy journey. It was very difficult and painful, full of ups and downs and successes and tearful moments. And it was through all of those hardships that really, really shaped me. In the midst of that, I was a single parent raising my two kids on my own. And so that came with its own struggles. And I think that when we're faced with a lot of adversity in life, it forces us to really become a better and a stronger person. It's like the statement goes, pain and suffering is the sharpening tool on which society is made keener. And it's very, very true. How sharp and focused is your knife really depends on how much time you've spent sharpening that knife. And so, in order to heal and restore my own health and to heal and restore my daughter's health, I really had to learn a lot. And I had to learn things that weren't available on the internet or in books. So, they were those lessons that really taught you to look deeper and to think and to question things in life.
Yeah, yes, and that's wonderful that you got your life's mission, and it's so beautiful to know about that. And also, as a clinical herbalist, how do you see emotional and physical pain interconnected in your clients?
I think they're one and the same, and it is one of my deepest beliefs as a holistic health professional, and from what I've seen in my practice, is that the root cause of most illnesses are emotionally seated. That we hold on to deep pains and suffering or deep grief, things that we are unable to let go of. And those emotions fester inside of us, just like a wound that's not cleaned properly. And if we aren't able to clean that wound and purge it from within our body, it can fester and turn into a disease. And I really like to use the word dis-ease because I think that a disease, signifies something that's a diagnosis versus something that's a dis-ease is something that's gone awry within the body, but it's something that we can soothe and restore. And when we can walk back through where our emotions have stagnated within ourselves, we can also walk back to where that point of healing needs to be found.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful, and the way you shared, it's so commendable. And also, can you share a moment where nature offered the most profound emotional support?
Absolutely. A couple things come to mind, but I'll use the most recent one. So I've been going through my own processes of grieving as of late, and I found that there was just a lot of emotions that I was really struggling to process and to be able to continue on my daily life and meet all the demands of modern day society and have time for those emotions. And at the same time, the emotions were so deeply intrinsic to me as a person that I found that I just was not capable of processing them. And so I turned to a plant ally that I was familiar with and had recommended to other people, and that was mimosa bark. And the bark of the plant, when made into a medicine, has the ability to help people move through emotions. And it's slightly uplifting and mood enhancing at the same time, but it's very, very subtle, and it can be very helpful when somebody's grieving. And so I use the plant pretty regularly for about a month and really found that it helped me to restore balance to myself, helped me to process those emotions and not to feel bogged down throughout my day. And so I think there's a lot of plant allies, and everybody may find a different plant ally. That one just really spoke to me and helped me to move through that grieving process. And I think that we can think of plants or herbal medicine as these allies and these partners in life. I was just making a post on social media this morning, and I was talking about how, you know, n- nature, the earth, offers everything we need for our healing. There is no stone unturned. We come from the earth, and from the earth we find our medicine.
Yeah.
So it always perplexes me why we feel this need to go into a laboratory and create something synthetic that's foreign to nature to try and heal nature, because we are part of nature.
Yes, yes. And there is something poetic about the earth knowing exactly how to hold us when we forget how to hold ourselves. And Herbal blends science and soul. How do you balance evidence based practices with intuitive healing?
So I think like the evidence base is the research into the herbs and our ancient wisdom, and that's actually a blending of two, because there's a lot of ancient wisdom that comes along with traditional herbal medicine that science has proven to be true. And then there are other things that we use in our topicals, like the monoatomic gold, for instance, that science really hasn't proven what we know it to do. It's proven some of the things that we know it's capable of doing to help restore the body. But when we look at the human body, there's small amounts of everything in nature contained within us. There's a small, tiny amount of mercury. And as long as it stays within its proper balance, it's not unhealthy to the body. The same with lead and cadmium and all of these heavy metals that are toxic to the body in large quantities. But in small amounts, they're there. And the same is present within the human body. There's small amounts of gold present inside of us. And there are some people who've been researching more in the soul spiritual side of things with the monoatomic gold. And they actually believe that our consciousness, the seat of consciousness, rests within the cells where the monoatomic gold is found within the human body. And so there's a lot of parts of etherbal and our topicals that are very science based. And then there's a lot of our parts of our topicals that are very spiritually based, because I don't believe that we're just a physical body. I believe that we're a soul, a spirit, and a physical body. And that if we were to find true healing, we have to be able to heal all three aspects of ourselves, not just one.
Yes, yes, and that's so beautiful the way you said it. And have you ever had to defend this balance in a more clinical or skeptical space?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. I think we're in a constant battle of trying to argue why herbal medicine should have a place in medicine. I always say that, herbal medicine is called alternative medicine
Mm.
here in the US. And I don't like that term alternative. I prefer the term original medicine because that is what we originally used for medicine. And long before we got rid of our original medicine, the doctors were considered to be, the bad ones. If you look at the history of Western medicine, they
Mm.
had a pretty dark history of killing a lot of their patients, and people were afraid of these doctors. And it took a big push from the federal government to push the propaganda that the original medicine, the herbal medicine, was bad for you, and that this new pharmaceutical medicine was the way to go. And I think that when we open our minds and we do the research for ourselves and we see where we've come from,
Mhm.
it'll pave a new path forward back to a better place. And that's not to say that modern medicine is entirely bad. I have worked with clients who have had to work very closely with their primary care physicians, and they don't always like me. But I always try to be very nice with them because
Mm.
I recognize that they are my number one ally for my clients, and that it's really important that we have a relationship, and that that doctor learn to understand the benefits of herbal medicine and how it can be a side by side component with their own practice and help to give their patients a better quality of life at the same time.
Yeah, yes. And I think it's bold to walk both worlds and inspiring to hear how you do it without compromise and everything. And you also lead conversation efforts. So, what is the spiritual significance of preserving endangered medical plant?
Well, I think it's a deep rooted connection here in the US to the native culture that once lived here. Um, and I think we need to honor the space and the places and the people that came before us and the medicine that they used. And while I use a lot of medicine from other countries in my practice, so I use a lot of traditional Chinese medicine herbs, a lot of Ayurvedic herbs, um, I always find that the herbs that grow in the local region of the person using the herbs are the most powerful because there is an energetic connection to the earth. It's like when they say when you're traveling and you get off that plane and you're experiencing that jet lag, if you take your socks and shoes off and step onto the ground and allow your feet to touch the earth, that it can realign you with the space and the place that you're in. And it's the same with the herbs. They have an energetic resonance. And so I feel that it is really important to help to ensure the survival of these native plants because we came in and we colonized an area. We found these medicines to be useful, and so we over harvested them, and now they're facing extinction. And in order to maintain that energetic healing and balance of a space, it is important that those plants be in that space. And so I get this all the time, questions about why my nonprofit plants and protects, but we do not harvest any of the plants that we plant in an area. And that's the exact reason. We are here to ensure their survival, to make sure that they are here for future generations and that they have an opportunity to thrive. And if we don't have people who are protecting and planting for the purpose of protecting these sacred medicines, the future of herbal medicine may not be what it is today.
Yes, yes. And protecting what heals us, whether it's plants or parts of ourselves, feels like a sacred act too. And how does that stewardship mirror your personal growth journey?
Well, for me, especially with the medicine, it is a deep connection to the plant itself. And there's a lot of people doing research in the field of plant consciousness. And I really, really resonate with that. And one of the things that they've found is that when a plant grows in proximity of a human, and that human tends and cares for it, and then uses it as medicine with the plant's permission, that plant actually starts to recognize what it is about itself that that person needs. And it will start to produce a greater amount of the constituents that are needed for that medicine. And so the plant can respond by increasing its sesquiterpenes, for instance. But we also notice that plants respond to quote unquote danger. And so when I spoke about harvesting, I said with permission of the plant. And the shamans of the South America always say that you should ask a plant for permission before harvesting from it. Otherwise, the plant will withhold its medicine from you. And once again, science has come in to confirm some of these spiritual things that we know about plants. And they have shown that when a plant sees danger, aka a person coming with a pair of shears to harvest it, that it increases its monoterpenes, which are also known as like the essential oils, the aromatic principles of a plant. And these monoterpenes send signals to the plants around it, warning it of danger. And so all of those plants start to shut down and produce more monoterpenes to warn other plants of the dangers. And it's a cascade effect. So, in some ways, this has proved that shamanic healing principle of always asking for permission, because if you don't ask for permission from the plant to harvest it, you come in as a threat to that plant, and it literally will withhold its medicine. And science has shown that a plant can change its constituents and its chemical makeup within seconds of recognizing a threat. And so it's important to look at plants as living beings
Mm.
who recognize their environment. And when we can approach nature with that type of consciousness, then we can start to have a more symbiotic relationship with the world around us.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing this knowledge. I think it's really nice because I think very few people will know this. And after this podcast, I think my listeners and everyone gonna know this. It's so beautiful. And for someone listening today feeling stuck in their struggle, what is one plant or practice you would recommend as a starting point toward transformation?
So I don't think there's one plan for all people, because that's a different one. Everyone's so different that that really takes an assessment and a feeling out of somebody's individual needs. But there are plants that I recommend as a whole, across the board, and it's going to differ from region to region what's available. But one of my herbs that I love to recommend to everybody is yarrow. And yarrow is such an easy plant to grow. It's hard for anybody to say, well, I don't have a green thumb, I can't grow it, because most people complain that yarrow grows like a weed. And yarrow is just a beautiful cleanser of the blood and helps to improve the lymphatic system of the body. And so it helps to expel toxins. And it can be drinking as a tea a couple times a week just to help the body to remove all of the toxins from our environment. But I mostly encourage people to go out and look around you and see what you see growing in nature. And if you live in a really urban environment like I do near a big city, oftentimes you can find a park or a local forest district
Mm.
that you can go and spend some time in, take a day trip and learn what is around you, because the best medicine for you is going to be what is growing in the closest proximity to you. And then you can have that relationship with the plant versus buying a plant that's already been harvested and dried offline. And you don't know if somebody's asked for permission from that plant to use it. You don't know where it came from, how it's been treated, how it's been handled. And so the best thing to do is to go out into nature, to find what's growing around you and to learn about it too. And if you find that you're out in nature, like I was in my local park district, and I realized that there's all these herbs that I know are supposed to be growing in my forest that are not here, then you can start to think about, like, well, what can I do to make sure that those plants are in my local area? So one of my favorite plants to see out in the forest is bloodroot. It just has the coolest leaves, and it's just this really unique plant, and it flowers when the snow is still out before its leaves have opened up. And so in this early spring, as it gets very cold where I live. So in the early spring, when the snow is still on the ground, all these little white flowers pop up out of the ground. And I always get so excited because I'm like, it's the bloodroot. The bloodroot's woken up. And um and so find that plant that gets you really, really excited when you see it. You don't need to know 100 different medicinal plants. In fact, there's thousands of them. It's almost impossible to know them all, even as an herbalist who's spent half a decade studying herbal medicine and all the different plants. It'll take me a lifetime, and I probably would say I still don't know them all because there's so many, and there's so many different uses for each one. And so go out in nature, find your plant and build a relationship with that plant and talk to it. Don't feel like you can't or that it's weird or that you can't talk to plants. Because I'll tell you a little story. So, long before I became an herbalist, I really wanted to have some house plants. And I couldn't keep a house plant alive to save my life. They all just were dying on me, and I was getting so frustrated. I wanted so bad to have some houseplants, and I would see my friends' houses, and they had all these beautiful plants growing, and I'm like, "What are you doing that I'm not doing?" And then one day, while I was watering, I was doing some mantra practices, and so I started just humming and singing this mantra while I watered my plants and gently touching their leaves and singing to them. And a couple months passed by, and I realized my plants were just thriving. And before you knew it, people were coming over to my house asking me what I was doing to keep my plants alive and why they were growing so big and beautifully. And I said, I sing to my plants. I sing mantras to my plants. I meditate with my plants, and I'm there and I'm living with them and I'm treating them like they're living beings who can hear and feel me, and they're responding to it. And once again, science has proven those spiritual aspects of things because they have done scientific studies where they put the same plant in two different spaces with the exact same lighting, the exact same food, the exact same water, all the same conditions.
Mm.
But to one plant, they say beautiful things, play it nice music, whatever it is. That's just absolutely beautiful. And in the other room, they say hateful and mean things or play violent music to the plant. And they found that the plant that's in the angry room, we'll call it, withers and dies and does not thrive. But yet the plant that's in the other room that is receiving these beautiful words, this loving music, and this caring environment, that it thrives and it grows. And it's an excellent example because if we think about ourselves as human beings
Mm.
and what we are putting into ourselves when we talk negatively to ourselves or when we listen to aggressive and violent and demeaning music, what is that doing to our body, albeit sometimes unconsciously? And that's one of the things that I talk to my clients about. If you're struggling with a lot of anger, and often anger will manifest in the liver and people will have liver issues. And so if you're struggling with a lot of anger, what are you listening to on a daily basis? What is your music? What are you telling yourself? And I love the tip that people say, like, if you start having a voice inside your head that's saying bad things to you, name that voice, give it a name. So call that voice in your head Becky. And when she starts talking bad to you, say, Becky, not today. I'm not going to listen to what you have today, Becky. So you need to be quiet and leave me alone.
Mm.
And it's amazing how well that works at silencing the voice inside of your head. And so I highly recommend to people to think about those two different things. So we talked about plant consciousness and then your own consciousness, the different voices inside your head, and think about how you connect, what you feed them. Yeah, are you feeding Becky good music today or are you letting her run rampant?
This is so beautiful, and I think healing, as you remind us, that isn't about fixing it. It's often about remembering and reconnecting. And this is a so beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing all this knowledges and all these experiences to all my listeners and everyone. And if my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my main website, which is bonniediarcangelo.com. So that is my name without the apostrophe. On there, you'll find links to my holistic health center, to my herbal products company, and a number of other podcasts that I've been a guest on. And pretty much anything you want to find, you can find there.
Yes, yes, and I will make sure to attach all the details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and listen more from you because you're a wonderful person and the knowledge you share with everyone is really, really amazing. And to my listeners, Bonnie D. Arcangelo has shown us that healing isn't just in formulas, it's in the courage to grow through what we go through. Let her story remind you that adversity doesn't break us, it brews something beautiful inside us. Until next time on the Soul Mirror, stay rooted, stay rising, and never underestimate the wisdom in the wild.